Goal is to really just take people on this journey where every quarter, every year, they can really see the fruit of what they've developed and get excited about it.
Tremaine Wills, MBA, is a financial planner, speaker, and author dedicated to helping individuals, business owners, and employees take control of their finances and reduce overwhelm. Through her financial services social enterprise, Mind Over Money, she offers services ranging from financial literacy and wellness solutions to taxes, accounting, and investment guidance, partnering with employers and event hosts to drive transformative financial change. Welcome to the show, Tremaine.
Thank you so much for having me, Tasha. I am super excited for today's conversation.
Likewise, likewise. So why don't you tell the audience about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Tremaine Wills. I run a company called Mind Over Money, where we are on a mission to help people manage their money better. And really, it's about helping people navigate their finances in a way where it allows them to live their best life and to not feel overwhelmed by money.
I love that. I love that. So can you share like the inspiration behind founding Mind Over Money and what motivated you to focus on helping women in
Mm.
particular manage their finances?
Yeah, so Mind Over Money came into existence in 2014. I had recently left a career in financial services at a large company, primarily because there was no relationship building. Like, I didn't get a chance to really just dive in and get to know my clients. And I come from a
Sure.
background of community and volunteerism, and just, I wanted to have that more tangible touch, right? I didn't want it to be transactional. So
Yeah.
I decided to leave and come back home. And, I was like, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to build this company the way I want to serve and really try to go with people on a journey so that they don't feel like they have to already have a particular dollar amount in order to get quality support. Um, and so that's kind of how Mind Over Money started, where the idea was to help people cultivate a mindset that building wealth is for you too, and you don't already have to have arrived. And so I focused on women because just watching strong women in my community always make a way. And so my thought was, what would happen if these same service oriented women had financial literacy and support with growing investments? How much more impact could they have in the community?
Yeah.
And so that was a goal. How can I help people that are already doing great things get a better hand of their finances and multiply that throughout the communities they serve? So that's what we've been doing, and I love it so much. And I'm prayerful that this will be a thing that multiplies, where it's not just the one woman and her family that I touch, but because of that, entire communities are transformed.
I love that generational wealth. That's what we're all
Yeah.
about, right? I
Yeah.
love that. Love that. So, in your experience, I'm just trying to figure this part out here. So, in your experience, what are the most significant challenges that women face in achieving financial independence? And then, how does Mind Over Money address these challenges?
Yeah. I think the biggest one is mindset. Um,
Mm, okay.
and a lot of it is our society and culture have conditioned us to believe that we are less than.
Hmm.
And then when you add in race to that, right? That's a whole nother level of
Yeah, that's so true.
barrier
Yeah.
overcome. So, um, the way that we address it, of course, the company name is Mind Over Money. So we focus on helping people to shift their identity from whatever the damaging thought systems that they had before to this idea that, yes, it can be you. You are worthy. It doesn't have to be just something that is for other people, but this belongs to you too. So helping to talk clients through that and allowing them to go through the process of adopting this new mindset and then putting it on paper so that they can easily follow it is how we help clients go through this transition of, you know, I might have struggled with finances in the past, but that doesn't have to be what it always is moving forward. So it's so
Well, that's
rewarding to really get
I
to do
love
that.
that. I love that. And you know what? I want to piggyback off of that question. So for I'm sure you might have had women that definitely have that scarcity mindset ingrained in them. Is there anything that they can do to prep maybe before coming to you to help them
Yeah,
rid themselves of that a little bit beforehand, just to make your job a little bit easier? Just
yeah. So, one of the things that helped me, because I had to go through this myself too, right?
yeah.
So, one of the things that helped me was therapy.
Okay.
And it was kind of digging deep and opening the boxes I had tucked back away, years ago that I just didn't want to touch. And sometimes we don't realize that the things that are tucked away are subconsciously sabotaging any efforts that we're trying to make. And if we are going to be our best, most authentic, excellent versions of ourselves, we got to address the parts that we don't want to touch. So that way they don't come up later and manifest in a way that we did not expect. So really sitting down and peeling back the layers of what may have hurt you and what causes you to think things about yourself that may not be true will allow us to have a more honest conversation where when I'm sharing information, it doesn't feel like I'm attacking. Because
Oh,
sometimes we
yeah.
connect our net worth to our self-worth. And if
Yeah.
we aren't aware of that trigger, then the conversation can pretty quickly turn left
Yeah.
when my whole intention is like, hey, I really just want to help.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah, that's why I asked that question because I could see I think we've all at some point in time had that type of scarcity mindset, whether it is real or fictional. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we think we don't have as much, and then you have someone like yourself come in. Hey, you actually have more than what you think you might have. You know what I mean? If you cut out XYZ. So that's why I asked that question. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
that was a great question.
Thank you. So here's another one. Hopefully, this is a good one too. So you've developed the Rich Roadmap framework to assist clients. Could you walk us through the key components of this framework and how it differentiates from other financial planning approaches?
Yeah. So the Rich Roadmap is the systematic process that I take clients through to help go through
Mhm.
that mindset shift.
Okay.
I think sometimes when we think about financial planning, we think numbers, we think what accounts we need to have, we think what investments we should have.
Yeah.
And we often like to skip the prerequisites, which are values, goals, identity, the
Mhm.
people that are going to be with us on this journey. So the rich roadmap encompasses all of that. So we start by reimagining what life would look like if we weren't stressed by our finances. So that's what the R is for. It's sitting
Nice.
down and kind of seeing what life would be before you get there. So that way we can map out how we're going to get there. Then the I is for identifying what your priorities are and who is important. For every person, we typically have different things that we value, different things that we want to do, and no budget or plan is the exact same because not everybody wants to travel or, be a rich
True.
auntie like me, right? And so
Yeah.
not everybody's plan is going to be the same, but you do need to identify what is important to you. And when you get to this place of financial stability, who are the people that are going to be around you? So that way you can include that in your strategy. Then once we've done that, now we go ahead and we create the plan. And so we set up
That's
all the
okay.
accounts and, make sure the budget is in alignment with the things we say we want to do and identify the returns you need to have and the insurances and all the technical stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then the last part is the H, and that is honoring the commitment. So you've done all this work to figure out where you want to go. We've created the strategy. Now you have to stick to it. Because how many of us have created a budget and then 2 months go by and you ain't looked at that budget? And it's
That's
like,
so
what did I
true.
do all of this for? You went through all of that pain to see how much you was spending on Uber Eats, all for you to just to go back to swiping that card and spending all this money again on Uber Eats, right? So
Yeah.
the last part of really honoring that allows us to reap the benefit of the work we did to create this strategy, because it is such a waste for us to spend all this time, effort, energy to create a strategy and then not even try to stick it out to see how it's
Yeah.
our lives. So that's what the roadmap is. And the goal is to really just take people on this journey where every quarter, every year, they can really see the fruit of what they've developed and get excited about it.
I love that. I love that. And I'm
And now, a word from our sponsor. Hey, ladies, I just wanted to share my new book, How to Live an Extraordinary Life, with or without Mr. Right. I'm dismantling harmful stereotypes and empowering women to see that singlehood isn't something that you have to survive, it's a place to thrive. Through biblical wisdom and real talk, this book is going to answer key questions such as, what does the Bible actually say about singleness? And how can I reject society's misguided views and embrace God's plan for my life? So if you've ever asked yourself these questions or wondered if something was missing in your life, this is the book for you. It's time to stop waiting and start living. Your life isn't on hold. It's happening right now. Grab your copy today in audio or paperback format at www.withorwithoutmrright.com. Back to the show.
curious about how long do you think it takes for a typical client to actually start to see? I realize obviously results are, dependent upon that person, how well they stick to the program. But if they kind of adhere to a lot of the advice that you share, how long do you typically start to see results?
Yeah. So we typically recommend a 1 year check in. So with every plan, we have like a long view strategy of like how you're going to get from here to retirement and then what happens in retirement. But then we also have a 1 year action plan. So it's kind of
Nice.
like a checklist of here's how you can be successful right now, do these things. And by the end of this year, you should have accomplished these goals, which are nestled inside of your bigger vision. So
Nice.
following that, you can see results in 1 year. Now, of course, you're not going to 3x your net worth.
Yes. Yeah, obviously.
But,
Yeah.
if the goal was to build the emergency fund and you stick to the plan, you have more emergency fund than you did a year ago. And that's a win for a lot of
Yes.
people, right? And it
Yes.
might
Yeah.
be maxing out your IRA or increasing your contribution to your 401k at work, whatever the goals are, right? For each person. It could be, hey, we're going to go on a family vacation. We haven't been in 5 years. So all of that is built into the strategy, and you're able to go back and say, okay, we did this, we did that, we did that. And for many people, that's win enough because it was not that way a year ago.
Yeah, that's great. Now that's exactly what I was looking for because I'm sure a lot of folks are like, well, how long does it take for me to see results? I can just see that already being one of those questions. So that's why I went ahead and asked. So again, I'm sure a lot of you guys are picking up the gems that Tremaine is sharing with us. As an educator at heart, what are some of the common misconceptions, okay, about financial planning that you frequently encounter among your clients? I'm sure that's a whole
Yeah.
laundry list, but give us top 3 maybe.
Yeah. So the biggest one is I hear so many people telling me that they are not math people. And I'm like, but you like money?
Okay, yeah, I can see
You
that.
like
Yeah,
money, right? So money is math. That's
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 true.
it. So that misconception that it has to be this completely challenging and difficult thing, I think is a hurdle for many
Mm,
people because for many of us, when we are not um when we are not able to pick up a skill set quickly, it is a shot to our confidence. And so we'll stay away
true.
from that thing, right? And so for some people, if they see investing as a math type thing and they've already told themselves they're not good at math, they're going to stay away. But it
Mm.
doesn't have to be that way, right? One of the things I like to tell people is that you have figured things out before, right? You did not know how to walk when you were born. You figured that out,
Yeah.
right? We didn't know how to feed ourselves. We figured that out. Folks didn't know how to cook. Some people still don't know how, but you can boil water,
I can boil water, y'all.
right? But it's like when you can develop a confidence in your ability to figure things out, so many more things become less intimidating. And so that's probably another one of the things that I like to encourage clients about is you have figured things out before, you can figure this out too. And so just having that confidence that, okay, I may not understand it right now, but I can understand it eventually. So those are probably the biggest two is people saying they're not math people. And then just this fear of, I don't know what it is. You figure stuff out before, you can figure this out too.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So you're just getting rid of all the excuses, right? So you've been recognized as a woman to watch in investment news and featured on the 50 under 50 list of AAA financial advisors. Congrats on all of that. And how
Thank
have these
you.
accolades influenced your career and approach to financial advising?
Yeah. So definitely a confidence booster. And
I should say so.
it's it's interesting as a younger advisor, because sometimes we come into this profession. Well, I won't speak for everybody. I'll speak for myself. I came into this profession and immediately there was the imposter syndrome, right? There was
Mhm.
I look 12, who is going to listen to me, right? I also had my family doesn't come from wealth. People are not going to listen to me. So there was all of this just
Mhm.
noise in my head telling me that I wasn't
Mhm.
good enough. And so, winning awards like that really was just a way to negate all of that negative self-talk and for me to
Mhm.
go back and just draw on that. Like there are people that have recognized and value my contributions to this profession. So I can stand on that when I hear some of this other stuff that wants to say otherwise. So I think, some people like to be praised and validated and
Sure.
recognized. And while we shouldn't chase validation and awards for the sake of rewards, it
Yeah.
is good to be recognized in your profession so that when you go through those tough moments, you can always go back and look and say, hey, there are people who are doing this with me that recognize my greatness and I can stand on that.
I love that. Yes, I completely agree with what you just said. You just have to have a balance, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be going after chasing those things, but when you get your flowers, accept them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, mind over money emphasizes the importance of walking in purpose, right? So, how do you integrate your personal purpose and financial goals when you're working with your clients?
Yeah. So this goes back to that rich roadmap where I really believe that a great financial plan is built on the values of the person it's designed for. Um, I think that there are a lot of empty goals in our culture
Mm.
where, we want to make six figures or we want to be millionaires. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things, but the goal itself doesn't have substance. And
Uh,
so
yeah.
when you connect your personal values and what you want to accomplish out of life with the financial metrics required to do it, then you start to get that alignment. And I think that's where the magic happens because it's like, oh, I want to do this thing because I want to accomplish this. So it's no longer, I need to earn $250,000 a year. It's, I need to have enough discretionary income so that I can support the charities I care about. So that level of clarity allows you to maneuver differently. So it's not just an empty hustle.
I love that. Yeah, I could definitely see. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can see that. And you know what? Can you share a success story where where you helped a client transform their financial situation? by following your guidance or the rich roadmap? Either.
Yeah. So, I have, I won't say one of my favorite clients because I really do love all of my clients. I am blessed. But I do have a client who was much younger than my average client.
Mhm.
And she came to me and had no savings. She was with her husband and they had quite a few children and she wanted to have a home for her family. And, we started talking about what the options were and how we could put together this roadmap so that she could get her family into a home instead of renting and kind of being in this transitional space. So we started out the process with identifying, how much do you need to have in savings so that way we can get you stable. Then from there, we started to identify how she could increase her retirement contributions. So now she's long-term saving. Then from there, we started to map out, okay, how's your credit health? So that way we can qualify for a mortgage for the type of home that you need because they had a relatively large family.
Okay.
And after about 12 to 14 months, she was able to close on her home. And
Aw, that's awesome.
she sent me the picture with the keys, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. That kind of reward
Wow.
is just, yeah. And it was just so awesome because she was younger. And so this
Mm.
wasn't something she had to wait to realize until, years and years down the road because she just had
Yes.
discipline and this focus. And we had the conversation around, hey, these are the things that you need to change. And she just did it. And the execution is
Man,
what allowed
that's
that to
awesome.
happen so quickly. And so I'm like, man, this is so rewarding. This is
That's
so
awesome.
rewarding. So, yeah, I think that's probably one of my favorite success stories because it just connected her commitment to following the instructions with such a tangible reward that didn't take, 30 years to show itself like we think
Yeah.
about retirement.
I love that. What an amazing story. I love hearing stories like that. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so we are in 2025, and I don't know about you, but it feels like we've gone through an entire year and it's just now about to be March, but it is what it is. If you had to choose one word to represent your goals for this year, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna say big.
Okay.
Big.
I
Yeah.
think I had
So
that one. Okay.
I am in a season of believing bigger where
Love that.
everything, I just want to make sure that I'm not only trying to operate in my own capacity. Like I want to partner, collaborate, have big faith, big dreams, big vision, just expand. Um, and I think that's just that constant reminder of the
Love
bigness
that.
that is possible is where I am right now. So yeah, all things big.
I love that. I don't think I've ever had that word. So I love that. That is a question I ask all of my guests. So I love that. And I'm positive I haven't heard that one. So that's awesome. 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 Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. Just wanted to ask you one last question. Last but not least, what advice would you give to someone who feels overwhelmed about their financial situation and doesn't know where to begin?
Mm, that's a good question. The first piece of advice I would give is to pause. So kind of just take a moment to really sit still and do some quick inventory, right? Are you in a situation where you really are not making enough money? Or are you in a situation where you're overspending? Because those are two different things.
Mm, yes.
Sometimes we think we don't have enough money, but it's really we're just not being disciplined with what we have. But there are some instances where you really have penny pinched and cut as much as possible, and you really are just underemployed. And in those instances, there is not much you can do besides
Mm,
generating more income. So that pause and that moment to just sit to kind of identify which way you need to go will help bring clarity for the next step. So These kinds of questions can be answered by creating a budget. And so when you take that moment to pause, create the budget, and kind of see what is happening with the money, then it'll help you identify, okay, how can I move forward from here? But I think just taking that moment to pause and gather yourself and know that in this moment I am okay will give you enough space to kind of take that next step.
I love that. That is sound advice. I love the idea of just pausing because most of the time it's panic. And then you're just trying to like make any sort of action,
Yeah.
taking any action, you're thinking that you're going to get something. At least I'm moving. But
Yeah.
you're right. That pause is everything. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right on that. I love that. I love that. Well, Tremaine, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I know the audience has as well. In the event that folks want to get in contact with you, how can they go about doing so?
Yeah, so I'm like Visa everywhere you want to be. I'm on every single social media platform. My handle is at Tremaine Wills. So you can find me there, hopefully teaching and promoting financial literacy with a gigantic smile on my face while I'm doing it. Um, but yeah, that's where you can find me.
I love that. I love that. Tremaine, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for all the gems that you shared with us. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming out to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tasha.